Merry Christmas morning, I think, hopefully, probably, is when this episode's coming out. We're here to do a little Christmas episode. It's going to be a little bit more informal. We were going to watch like 4 movies. Normally we watch 2. There was one that I'm leaving in the dust because I don't think we have the time to talk about it.
What movie?
Well, we watched Happiest Season.
Right.
We watched The Family Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar in a few ways.
Very similar,
We'll get to that. And we watched 8-Bit Christmas, which we watched last year and I was a big fan of, so I really wanted to rewatch it. And then we were going to try and fit in the new Christmas Story sequel thing. Not Christmas Story 2.
Who knows? Which
you have on the shelf.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But I wanted to make sure that we got the podcast in with enough time to edit it before Christmas Day.
Absolutely. I'm sure we'll be watching other Christmas stuff, but we just won't be talking about it, I guess.
Yeah. So to start, we'll kind of bounce between the movies. We won't do like first half this one, first half that one, but we'll just kind of jump around and keep it a little chill. So we watched Happiest Season, of which the logline is a holiday romantic comedy that captures the range of emotions tied to wanting your family's acceptance, being true to yourself, and trying not to ruin Christmas by revealing a nasty secret. That's a little messed up to say that it's nasty. A nasty secret.
I think revealing it without their consent is nasty.
Without the 2 main characters' consent, sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that is a little weird.
I feel like the person who wrote that logline had some opinions.
The Netflix logline is different.
Okay. So Happiest Season came out, I think, last year. Mm-hmm. And it stars Kristen Stewart and
Mackenzie Davis.
Yeah, Mackenzie Davis as a gay couple trying to pretend that they're not gay at Mackenzie Davis's Christmas get-together.
Well, I definitely have opinions because what did Mackenzie Davis think was going to happen?
I don't know.
Because she had invited Kristen Stewart. She's like, oh, please come with me. I love Christmas. Come with me to my family gathering and wake up next to me at Christmas time.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I think Mackenzie Davis is a pretty big crap bag in this movie.
Yeah.
I was not on board.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the movie itself, I thought was pretty good. I mean, I went into it thinking that it was going to be one of those, like, cheesy Netflix romantic comedies that it's like, oh, hijinx. And there was a little bit of hijinx, but for the most part, it was really a bummer. Like, but like, not like, oh, I'm so annoyed that I'm watching this, but like, I'm invested in this movie and it's making me feel sad.
I really love the supporting characters. Like, Daniel Levy's character is
legendary.
Very funny. He plays such a great best friend character. Yeah. Especially when he like pretends to be the milkman and he's like, hello, I am here to win her back. And he's like, I nailed that performance.
He was great. Yeah. I liked all the actors in this. Yeah. Even Mary Steenburgen or Steenson.
She was pretty good.
Even though she's terrible in most things.
The line where she's like, I wanted to learn karate, but it's not elegant. It's pretty good.
You laughed at that, but that was like right after a really tense emotional moment, so I did not think it was funny. But I understood. A good line. Yeah. I understood.
It was like a female comedy powerhouse. You got Alison Brie, you got Aubrey Plaza, you got Aubrey.
That's correct.
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza, mm-hmm. Like Mary. Well, I don't know.
Mary Steenburgen.
She was okay.
Yeah,
but and then the girl that played the third sister, pretty funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she also like wrote it or co-wrote it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Well, I'll jump right into some trivia here. So, director Clea? Is that her name? C-L-E-A? Clea?
Clea, I think so.
Clea Duvall wrote the film as an autobiography. She said that she wrote it so she could see her own experiences play out on screen.
Is she
sorry to hear that.
Is she the Mackenzie Davis character?
I don't know. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
So, this movie was like filled me with anxiety, and partially The Family Stone as well. So we'll jump back and forth between this and The Family Stone. So The Family Stone came out like mid 2000s, a while ago.
Yeah, like 2005 or something.
Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah.
Legend.
And Sarah Jessica Parker, right at like her peak Sex and the City stardom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the logline for The Family Stone: an uptight conservative businesswoman accompanies her boyfriend to his eccentric and outgoing family's annual Christmas celebration and finds that she's a fish out of water in their free-spirited way of life. So interesting comparison between these two movies, because they both they kind of had different plots, but they were both about a member of a family bringing their significant other to Christmas and them not fitting in and just feeling completely anxiety-ridden and depressed the whole time.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't like me for a good reason. You've just decided to not like me.
Yeah, so I have a big bone to pick with The Family Stone.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this while we were watching it. So what happens in that movie is that, the Craig T. Nelson, Diane Keaton family. Yeah. Craig T. Nelson and Diane Keaton and their whole family, they meet Sarah Jessica Parker and they write her off almost immediately. They're not open-minded at all. They're just get her out of here. She doesn't fit. To the point where Dermot Mulroney's character is you, Diane Keaton, my mom, promised that you would give me your grandmother's engagement ring when I found the woman that I was going to marry. And Diane Keaton's I changed my mind. Which is really, I found it to be exceedingly crappy behavior.
Yeah. Well, okay. What turned this movie into a very stressful Hallmark movie was when she ended up being right, because the very next day he falls for his significant other's sister. So it's oh, yep, she's the one, I'm gonna marry her. And then it's no, I like your sister better.
Yeah, he was a big flip-flopper. Because he was this is the woman that I'm gonna marry. And
you guys have to
totally
her.
Different.
Yeah.
But so my problem was that the family wrote her off really quickly for seemingly no reason other than just she's a little bit prim and proper.
Yeah, but so what?
Yeah. But then maybe a third of the way through the movie, she makes some not so nice comments about, not necessarily about a gay member of the family, but just being gay in general. She kind of views it as being a negative thing. And I think that is the point where it would have made sense for the family to completely turn on her. And
right.
they put that moment way too late in the movie, because by that point they had already wrote her off.
And they're oh, she's terrible. And it's but what did she actually really do up to this point?
Yeah, but if they had put that scene way earlier, it would have been oh, okay, so she's immediately kind of coming off as not accepting of one of our beloved members of this family. Now, then I would see the motivation behind saying, well, I'm not going to give you my grandmother's engagement ring to give to her because she's terrible.
Just the stupidness of all that happens is because she then starts to fall for Luke Wilson, and then they're all cool the next Christmas season. They're all fine. They're hey, yeah, I'm with Luke Wilson now. Claire Danes, you're with Dermot. Whatever, we're all cool.
Dermot.
Is that his name?
Well, that's the actor's name. Dermot sounds like dermatitis.
I don't remember any of their names. Their last name is Stone. Other than that,
yeah,
I know they called their parents by the first names.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so kind of separate from these two movies, we also watch 8-Bit Christmas. The logline of that is, in 1980s Chicago, a 10-year-old sets out on a quest to get the Christmas gift of his generation, the latest and greatest video game system. That being Nintendo Entertainment System. So kind of the subtext of that movie is that it's a sneaky remake of A Christmas Story. It hits all the same beats. A kid really wants this thing for Christmas, this beloved item, MacGuffin, whatever. There's a bully.
That he stands up to.
Yeah, there's a dad that kind of understands but kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
I think I thought it was very unexpectedly great. Because I went into it thinking 8-Bit Christmas, this is going to be dumb. But it really kind of captured my heart.
For sure.
And it's definitely, I would show it to a younger generation, as sort of this generation's Christmas story.
Well, the kids are cute in it. Some of the kids have pretty good comedic timing and stuff. It's just charming and it's sweet.
Yeah. I was really glad to watch it again. And I think Steve Zahn is the perfect cinema dad.
Yeah, because
he's
like,
so funny.
He's funny, but he's like definitely dorky.
Yeah.
So you kind of like, it's the traditional dad where you kind of like roll your eyes if he tells like a joke or something.
Was he the dad in Diary of a Wimpy Kid too?
Yeah.
I think he was.
Yep.
That's funny. I love Steve Zahn.
He's a good character actor.
Yeah. He should have been in all 3 movies that we watched.
So all these movies are about families around the holiday, and to some extent, they're about sort of dysfunctional families. 8-Bit Christmas, the lesser so, just more of a bit of a typical family where, you know, maybe the parents work too hard, the kids don't always get along, but then they come together and like they're generally pretty happy. Whereas the first 2 families, it was just like so hard to watch, but it was also kind of like, this is what Christmas is like for a lot of families, where it's just utter chaos with people saying weird things to each other, being passive aggressive, having like strained relationships, but they get together for Christmas. And
I think we can all relate to those situations on certain levels. And that did bring out a lot of anxiety in me while I was watching these movies. And for Happiest Season, it kept me watching because like I did really want to see what happened. I kind of wish, spoilers, official spoiler warning, I kind of wish that the 2 of them didn't end up together in the end.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated the moment when Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis were talking, and Mackenzie Davis was like, "Oh, I did it. I came out to my family. It's all good now." And Kristen Stewart was like, "You know what?
It's too
late."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yes, that is the perfect thing to be saying, because you got to respect yourself, and you were not being treated right by that person, and so you are within your right to walk away."
Yeah, because she had lied to her and stuff, and you know, even when like Kristen was trying to do this nice thing for her, she like wasn't giving her the time of day. She was with like Mackenzie Davis was with her high school boyfriend and like totally ignoring her and stuff.
Yeah, that was, again, crap bag kind of behavior, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
I think if you're going to be friends with an ex-partner, you got to walk a really fine line between, you know, like respecting your current partner.
Yeah, not staying out late at a bar with them while your other partner is like at home and like you're not texting them
with
back.
no one to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I generally don't think that's a good idea, but I mean, whatever.
I liked her arc enough where like Kristen Stewart's arc enough where like she was telling her friend like, you know, I know what I want. I want to be with someone that is okay with being with me. Yeah. So, but I mean, I guess it sort of all ended happily. I don't know.
I was okay with the second like redemption for Mackenzie Davis, where she was like, you know, the second time kind of outside the store where she was like, all I need is you. If it's a choice between you and my family, I'm going to choose you. You're who I want to build a life with. I was only okay with that because Kristen Stewart earlier said too late.
Yeah. So it wasn't like immediately like, I forgive
you.
Yeah.
That would have been lame.
Yeah.
So I was curious to see what was going to happen. Because, again, I went in thinking it was going to be kind of crappy, like the holiday calendar and like the night before Christmas and those kind of movies.
You go into that movie expecting that it's going to be kind of weird or crappy.
This one, because it was released on Netflix like those other ones, that's what I expected. But it ended up being more grounded.
Oh, definitely.
And having a lot more heart. And one piece of trivia that I think kind of sheds some light on this situation is that, so it was one of at least 4 LGBTQ-related Christmas movies released in 2020. The other 3 are the made-for-TV productions Dashing in December, The Christmas Setup, and The Christmas House. Happiest Season was originally set for theatrical distribution.
That makes a lot of sense because it has a lot of big names in it, whereas traditional Netflix movies are more like C-list stars where it's like they were known for something, but now like they're not really doing much.
Yeah. So it was originally set for theatrical distribution and would have been one of the first major studio films centered around a female same-sex couple to be released in theaters. That is a bummer.
Yeah, because of COVID.
Yeah, I think they filmed it before COVID. Oh, yeah, because I was reading the trivia, and I think it said, like, Kristen Stewart was getting driven to the airport, and she was, like, asking the cab driver, like, is, like, COVID something that I need to be worried about?
Oh, no. Yeah.
And I guess a bunch of people on set got it.
Well, that makes sense. There was sort of a period of time where it's like, it was coming over from like China and other countries, and we're like, do we need to worry about this, or is this just kind of like scare stuff? But like then everyone ended up getting it.
Yeah. So I really wish for this movie's sake that it had been released in theaters, because then I would have taken it more seriously. And in the end, I was pretty happy that I watched it, even though it filled me with a lot of anxious feelings. I did want to know what happened. Unfortunately, I was a little bit spoiled because we paused the movie like just before the very, very end, before it was kind of like revealed how things were going to end up. And when we went back to Netflix, the splash screen was a still from the end where they're like all hugging and taking the picture together. Bad. And I'm like, well, I know if they're hugging like that in front of the family, then obviously everything works out. So,
well, it's a Christmas movie. What kind of ending would it be to be like, we're broken up? I don't know.
An ending like the Family Stone.
Yeah,
so spoilers for the Family Stone again. So they kind of switch who their romantic partner is partway through the movie. Originally, Dermot Mulroney is with Sarah Jessica Parker, and Luke Wilson is with no one. Then Claire Danes joins the fray, and all heck breaks loose in the Family Stone house. This
is where like I feel like it just didn't work. It was
just really?
Like,
okay.
It was just too chaotic for me. Like it just felt like Hallmark writing with none of the comfort of like being in like a small town with like a chef that wears a cozy sweater and is like a single dad. Like, you know, like the typical sort of cozy fun tropes. Like, oh, we're all gonna come together to donate these Christmas boxes, like whatever. But like it was just like the craziness of like, you know, oh, I really like this guy, but actually I'm really warming up to this guy over the span of like a day.
Literally a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was dumb. I also thought they didn't do a very good job of portraying sort of like the cracks in the relationship between Dermot Mulroney and Sarah Jessica Parker, because they seemed pretty, you know, at the beginning, like they were fine. Like, yeah, we're together and we're both uptight and like whatever.
Yeah.
And it seemed like Dermot Mulroney was like the only kind of uptight member of the family, which I thought was interesting. But then through reading the trivia, I think it was kind of implied that he is more like his family, and he was only kind of like turned uptight because of Sarah Jessica Parker.
They should have.
And then they should have portrayed that on screen a little bit better. Yeah. And then over the course of the film, his uptight layers like peel away. I think the extent of the movie trying to explain that was having him in a hoodie at the end. I don't think
it looks so out of place though. I wish they had said like, when they greeted him, like, oh, you've gone, like, all New York on me. Like, you're so snooty and uptight now. Or, like, something like that. Like, I don't know.
think they did. Maybe they did and we just missed it.
I don't know.
Because they were definitely ragging on him for wearing a tie. But it seemed, you know, like, I do that. Like, my family doesn't wear ties to, like, family functions. But I do because I like it. Whatever.
Like,
You know? So, I didn't think that they portrayed the turn very well.
No.
And Claire Danes just, like, randomly coming in halfway through felt kind of weird.
And, like, they just, like, walked and talked about traveling. And he's like, oh, I'm all into you now.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to last.
That is so creepy.
Yeah. But what I will say about the movie, like, I definitely preferred Happiest Season.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely rewatch that.
They both had kind of, like, ensemble casts.
Yeah.
But The Family Stone, for some reason, was really entertaining. Because we put it on when I was kind of hoping to go to bed in like half an hour. And I was like, well, we'll watch like half an hour of it and then go to bed. And we watched like half an hour of it. And we watched like 45 minutes of it. And I was like, we should really go to bed, but I mean, whatever. And then we were like more than halfway through and it was getting towards midnight. And I was like, we should really go to bed, but I kind of want to see what happens. And then it was like well past midnight and you were like, should we go to bed? I think we should go to bed. And I was like, no, we'll just finish it. So I don't know why, but I really was like invested.
It was an interesting movie. I just think it just wasn't, the writing just wasn't good. Like I wanted more from it.
It wasn't awful. It was awful by the time we made it to the scene where that classic Christmas hijinx music was playing and they were running around the house. Like dun, 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 dun,
where they're like
dun, dun,
fighting
dun, dun, dun,
and she gets like strata splashed on herself.
That scene was terrible.
And they just like, they're like, oh, it's funny because everything's messed up and we're
gonna laugh.
And then it's like,
I would
okay.
I would be crying
now
if I was Sarah Jessica Parker.
She was crying.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it just sort of turned to laughter and she's like, I don't even know why I'm laughing. And it's like, oh, no, we're all cool now. Like, it's fine. And it's like, what?
Whatever.
So it just didn't make sense to me. I felt like the plot of Happiest season was a lot more thought out. And
it definitely was, probably because it was based on real events. But it also had that same scene where it's like, oh, we're going crazy now. We're going to run around the house and throw things at everybody and destroy everything. It's like, why does it seem like these movies always have to have that moment? Because like, Happiest season, I don't know what I'm going to rate this movie, but I feel like Happiest season probably dropped a full star just for that scene. Because
it just seemed like it was losing touch with reality.
Yes, exactly. You put it in a very good way. Especially when she smashed the painting, like the very rather nice painting that the third sister spent a lot of time painting. And I was like,
just made them seem crappy.
What kind of person does that?
Yeah, like, even if you're mad, like throw a piece of food at them or something. Like,
or just scream.
Yeah, or don't smash like this painting.
That's so rude.
Who would do that? I don't know.
There were so many times during both these movies where I think I said out loud, like, after that, that's when I would have walked out. Not from watching the movie, but like if I was in the scenario, I would have been like, screw this, I'm out of here. Like, you all suck. I'm leaving.
Well, yeah.
But I enjoyed both of them. It was very anxiety inducing watching them both like pretty much back to back.
For sure. I didn't really know what to expect with either of them. Mm-hmm. I was happy to watch them, but I think the Happiest season is something that I'm more likely to revisit sooner than the Family Stone, for sure.
Right. Sorry, I'm just checking my trivia, so I'll fact correct myself right here. It wasn't Kristen Stewart who was asking her cab driver if she should be worried about COVID-19. It was Aubrey Plaza.
I see.
So a little bit of trivia for the Family Stone. So writer and director Thomas Bazooka, what a last name, Thomas Bazooka, put the 9 cast members playing the Stones through several weeks of rehearsal so they would bond well enough off camera to convincingly portray a family. This included a crash course in American Sign Language, as 8 of the 9 characters would be called upon to utilize American Sign Language in the script or either communicate with or interpret for the character of Thaddeus. While some critics and the cast members themselves pointed out that their American Sign Language was subpar, it was actually a realistic portray of a hearing family's use of the language, which is often perfunctory at best.
Where it's like they're just doing it supplementally, like, and they're not like actually skilled in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why I was so drawn into this movie is because I like pretty well all the actors in it. Mm-hmm. I'm not like crazy about Sarah Jessica Parker, but I've never really seen her in anything. But like, I like Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
I love Craig T. Nelson. After
really,
after Incredibles and Parenthood, he was good in Parenthood.
You hated him in Parenthood at first.
I hated his character in Parenthood.
He kind of went through a redemption arc. A little bit.
But the actor was excellent.
Yeah.
And this movie, if anybody out of these listeners have seen the show Parenthood, this movie has a lot of Parenthood vibes.
Yeah.
In that it's like
adult children
who come to the, like slightly older age parents' big old house to celebrate and talk and whatever, and like only a couple of them have children.
Yeah.
And of course Craig T. Nelson plays
the dad.
The dad. But you could see it in so many ways. Like Luke Wilson's character was totally Dax Shepard's character from Parenthood.
Yeah, sort of the black sheep of the family. Yeah. It doesn't really know what's going on.
Yep, and like Dermot Mulroney was
Adam.
Yeah.
It was Peter Krause.
Peter Krause's character. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Rachel McAdams. She was kind of like a combination of Lauren Graham and Lauren Graham's daughter.
Or Julia, maybe. Sort of like the uptight.
Well, it's funny. Sarah Jessica Parker kind of, I guess, was the Julia character a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So, yeah, there were a lot of Parenthood vibes. If you watch The Family Stone and you really like that dynamic, maybe you watch Parenthood.
Yeah.
Parenthood's kind of a dumpster fire, though, but it's a very entertaining dumpster fire.
It was a great COVID watch because it was kind of just like, one more?
Yeah,
you just watch like, let's just see what happens.
One of those TV shows that I really enjoyed watching the DVDs of.
Yeah.
So that I could actually click the next button. There's some kind of aesthetic, like people who grew up in the 70s are nostalgic for vinyl. I'm nostalgic for DVDs for some reason.
Because that was your childhood.
Yeah, just like years of watching The Office and Fresh Prince on DVDs and listening to the commentary. So,
for sure.
All that said, we have all the episodes of Parenthood on DVD. But that was a good watch. And it kind of weirdly, watching The Family Stone made me want to rewatch Parenthood. Maybe if there's Christmas episodes of Parenthood, we should
There
rewatch
is, because remember they sort of broke out of their grounding from reality and had
with
magical
Santa?
realism.
Yeah.
Where it's like Santa is real and he brought presents to the hospital.
Me shoes or like something,
something
like
that.
That was crazy. Like I said, bit of a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
But the Family Stone, so a little bit more. During the film's Christmas Eve montage, as Thaddeus and Patrick stroll hand in hand toward the inn, Patrick signs in American Sign Language that the evening sky looks beautiful, to which Thaddeus responds, "No, you're beautiful."
Aw, that's
sweet. Makes me want to learn a bit of sign language.
Yeah, I used to learn it a bit growing up because one of my close friends was deaf.
Mm-hmm.
But I was mostly it was mostly the alphabet.
Yeah.
And like the occasional word. Like thank you or whatever, but it was like I wouldn't say I'm exactly fluent in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Happiest Season or The Family Stone? So again, as I was saying before, I felt invested in these because I ended up really liking the actors. Rachel McAdams did a really great job as well. Diane Keaton, all the female leads I really appreciated.
Yeah, same with Happiest Season. Like all the female leads were dominating.
That was what I was most excited to. The reason why I was most excited to watch Happiest Season is because I do like Kristen Stewart, and I hadn't seen her in anything in a really long time. I'd seen Mackenzie Davis in a few things. She really stuck out the first time I saw her in The Martian. I don't know why.
I don't remember her in that movie at all.
Her character wasn't that huge as far as on screen, but I just remember like that was the first thing that I saw her in on screen, and I was like, something about this actress. I feel like she's gonna go places, even though she has a really small role in The Martian.
I thought you were gonna say like really small nose or something like really.
Yeah, she has a really small nose in The Martian, so I was like, this character's gonna go places.
That's right.
But yeah, I see she's also, I think she's in Blade Runner 2049
as really?
well.
Well, I haven't seen that.
And I think she's in a Terminator movie that I also haven't seen.
Right.
We should do a Terminator marathon because you've only seen the first two, right?
Sure. I mean, those are the best ones. So.
Well, yeah. Terminator 2 is one of the best films ever made.
I'm interested in watching Diana with Kristen Stewart. She
What's
plays the Princess Diana.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I saw the poster of it at first and I didn't even realize it was her until people in the comments were like, "Oh yeah, she's really good in this." So
yeah, I do really like her. I saw her in Adventureland and Catch That Kid.
Yeah.
That was a classic.
I feel like her character in Twilight is like supposed to be kind of a blank slate, so then it doesn't really show her acting chops because her character is like kind of nothing.
It's so interesting that Twilight kind of swallowed up two really talented actors and put them in roles that did not express their range at all.
But it seems like they're at least getting their due diligence now, like Robert Pattinson. Pattinson? Yeah. Is getting like a lot of great movie roles these days.
We gotta watch Good Time.
Okay,
You're gonna hate it.
I mean, I like The Lighthouse. You didn't like it, so.
No, but Good Time, you know how I talk about feel-good movies versus feel-bad movies?
Yeah.
Good Time is a feel-bad movie.
But you like it?
I did like it.
Okay.
Like you saw Uncut Gems, right? We watched Uncut Gems together.
It's the same people.
Same directors. Same massive sense of anxiety.
I didn't actually find it that stressful. I just didn't like Adam Sandler's character.
I think you'll find Good Time stressful.
Okay.
Because my main beef with Uncut Gems, why I didn't like Uncut Gems versus Good Time, is because I did not have any reason to root for any of the characters in Uncut Gems. Mm-hmm. I was like, I do not care what happens to any of these people, and I just am not interested in finishing the movie. Whereas Good Time has a reason to want things to happen.
For sure.
It's definitely upsetting.
I'm okay with that to a degree. I just feel like sometimes movies have to be upsetting for a good reason. Like a plot point or something. Like sometimes movies are just upsetting just because.
I agree. Yes. I think it's upsetting in kind of the same way that Old Boy is.
See, like that movie,
It's upsetting.
It's
definitely
upsetting, but it's more like that movie is hard to describe because it is disturbing more than upsetting, I would say.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested, like we're talking about, these actors who are doing more indie roles after being famous for something that ruled the world. I think that we should do like a Robert Pattinson marathon, a Kristen Stewart marathon.
Yeah. Never seen Adventureland.
A Daniel Radcliffe marathon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm actually interested in seeing Horns.
Horns?
Yep.
Yeah, I want to see Horns.
Maybe Swiss Army Man.
Definitely Swiss Army Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you like Paul Dano.
I like Paul Dano enough, yeah.
He's pretty good.
He was really funny in There Will Be Blood. Another great Christmas movie.
Yeah, see? There Will Be Blood is a comedy.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
There's definitely comedic elements.
I found a lot of humor in Paul Dano's character, which I don't think you were supposed to. But just the look on his face where his little sister is like
picked to do the
instead of him, he's like happy and then his face falls.
He's like stabbed in the gut, but he has to keep a smile on his face. It's the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
I love that face. So back to Christmas.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch more cheesy Christmas movies. I feel good that we watched 2 new Christmas movies that are more modern. Mm-hmm. So then I'm not going to feel as bad watching maybe like more lighthearted type stuff the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. Like I'm interested in perhaps Let It Snow, which is like a John Green written Christmas film.
I think he co-wrote it. Or like he co-wrote the book, at least.
Right. Yeah. So I'm interested in that. Maybe some Netflix stuff or like some more cheesy made for TV stuff.
Well, we watched It's a Wonderful Life a year or 2 ago, me for the first time. And I thought that was quite good. I'd be interested to rewatch that. We also watched, I think 2 years ago, we watched Muppets Christmas Carol.
That is solid. I love that.
And then last year we watched a different version of A Christmas Carol.
We watched one of the originals.
Yeah. Not the George C. Scott one, but one.
It was black and white.
Like from the 50s or 40s, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
But I want to watch the George C. Scott one this year.
Okay.
Because that I think is Doug Walker's favorite one versus the one that we watched last year, which I think was James Rolfe's favorite one.
Yeah.
Something about A Christmas Story being, or Christmas Carol being such a ubiquitous Christmas tale makes me really want to find like my definitive, loved version of it. I also want to watch Scrooged with Bill Murray.
Scrooged, and then there's also the new one this year, Spirited, which is the same thing with Will Ferrell
and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be into that one as much.
Because it's a musical.
I didn't even know it was a musical.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, just the vibe of it. I feel like...
Scrooged is pretty good.
I don't know, like, I feel like that story is best when it's taken seriously.
I agree.
Which is part of what made the Muppets version so good, was that even though it was a Muppets movie, Michael Caine took it completely seriously.
And that's what made it so awesome.
Yeah.
And it had like the levity of like maybe some of the Muppets side character jokes, but he was taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So it was like a nice balance. Whereas some of the older black and white movies, it's just like very Victorian, very played straight. And it's like, I want a little bit of levity in this story because it can be a little intense at times.
When I say played straight, I just mean like not as a parody. Like I have seen more than enough parodies, satire of a Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in Scrooge because it's hopefully like by the book with comedy.
Yes.
Whereas I'm interested in the George C. Scott version because I've heard that one is like really grounded and emotionally fulfilling.
For sure.
Yeah. I do have a couple pieces of unread trivia from the movies that we watched.
Let's go for it.
To loop back around to that.
Sure.
So this is for the Family Stone. So composer Michael Giacchino, this is the beginning of the trivia, but I'm going to stop myself right here. Audience members out there, if you have not heard of Michael Giacchino, if I'm pronouncing his name right, you got to start researching this man. Because when I edit, I listen to a lot of video game music compilations. And this one song kept coming up from the game Donald Duck as Maui Mallard in Cold Shadow, which is like this really random Super Nintendo game from the 90s.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah, nobody ever talks about it.
Right.
But it's like Donald Duck starring as a parody of Magnum P.I. who turns into a ninja.
Oh.
That's what it's about.
Well, I knew he was like a detective, but I didn't realize he turned into a ninja.
Yeah, so the Maui Mallard is the detective and then Cold Shadow is the ninja.
Okay.
So this music from this game would pop up in these compilations and I'd be like, whoa, what is this music? Like this is really good music from a game I've never heard of. What is this? And then eventually I looked it up and the game's music was, or at least partially composed by this man, Michael Giacchino.
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked up what else he's done. Hannah's nodding along, but I've told her the story like 3 or 4 times. This is mostly for the audience's sake.
Well, you know what? I keep on forgetting and like, well, remind me.
So Michael Giacchino, I looked him up and yes, he did the music for The Family Stone, but he also did the music for The Incredibles and Ratatouille, which both had amazing music, and all the new Spider-Man movies, and The Batman, music, which had like mind-blowing music, and plenty of other movies that have like been huge the last couple of years. And so you can just see the ramp up of his career from like doing random Disney Super Nintendo games in the 90s to doing kind of like cheesy, somewhat forgettable movies in the 2000s to doing like some of the biggest blockbuster movies of the 2020s. I am so proud of this guy.
Yeah,
I just think this is such a cool story. And I think he just started directing recently too. There was like a Halloween
Werewolf
movie.
by Night.
Yeah,
and then
that
there's
came out
like
this year.
a documentary called Director by Night.
Yeah. So that I believe is about him.
Yeah.
So keep Michael Giacchino on your radar, all you audience members, because he's doing some cool stuff.
What a cool career.
Yeah. So this piece of trivia, Michael Giacchino re-recorded the instrumental track of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas as it appeared in Meet Me in St. Louis, which is a movie that they're watching at one point in The Family Stone.
Mm-hmm.
So he re-recorded it, duplicating every note and matching every tempo of the original orchestration, which he then programmed simultaneously to enhance Judy Garland's vocal.
Wow.
Both tracks appear on this film's soundtrack, allowing the listener to appreciate how closely the new recording matches the vintage one.
That's amazing.
So he put a lot of work into really like emphasizing...
like remastering it.
Yeah, emphasizing that scene, because I believe that scene plays during a montage where you see how all the characters are spending their Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very nice moment.
It's very like played down key. Like a lot of people were kind of having a very quiet experience.
Mm-hmm.
But that movie, Meet Me in St. Louis, I haven't seen it, but
me neither.
Judy Garland, I think it's kind of like she's singing it to like a long distance love. Like, I hope wherever you are, you're having a Merry Christmas because we're apart.
That makes sense, because it seemed like a very emotional performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was cool. It just goes to show that Michael Giacchino's talent was not wasted on this film.
Definitely not.
Yeah. This next piece of trivia is one of those pieces of trivia that you either think is stupid and you're like, why would anybody take the time to type this up? Or you're like me and you're like, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what movie trivia on IMDb was made for.
Okay, give it to me.
Another similar piece of trivia was for X-Men First Class, where it said that this was January Jones's second time appearing in a work that took place in the 60s opposite an actor with a pork-based last name.
That's really funny.
So, X-Men First Class with Kevin Bacon and Mad Men with John Hamm. That is the kind of trivia that I live for, because it is so ridiculous that it just puts a smile on my face.
Okay.
So here's the one for The Family Stone. Ben says to Meredith, "What do you say we get you out of these clothes? You smell a little like puke." When Meredith got the strata all over her, it had Parmesan cheese in it. Butyric acid is in Parmesan cheese and also in vomit, which is why Ben said she smelled like puke.
That's very interesting.
Slow round of applause for the person who typed up that piece of trivia.
That is very specific.
That is just so random that I just find it hilarious.
For sure.
The kinds of trivia that I hate on IMDb is when it's like, this is Luke Wilson's second time appearing in something with Sarah Jessica Parker. The first time was in... It's like, I don't care. That's not interesting. Yeah. That's not trivia. That's just running at the mouth.
I prefer like getting insight into like the film production or something.
Yeah,
I'm
all about the behind the scenes.
Oh, absolutely, because we're both sort of camera people, so we'd like to know what happened.
I have a lot of strong IMDb trivia opinions,
of course,
as you can tell.
Well, sometimes it's repeated. Like, there's the same piece of trivia, like, written slightly differently. And it's like, why?
Yeah. Sometimes what I see is one piece of trivia where it'll be like, these 5 actors were considered for this role. And then 5 separate pieces of trivia where they list that same piece of trivia, but individually. So it's like, this actor was considered. Next piece of trivia, this actor was considered. It's like, we need some policing in the trivia
Well, it's also
section.
like, that's not usually that interesting because it's like, yeah, it's Hollywood. They consider a lot of people, but like, they're not in the movie, so who cares?
Yeah. The only time it's interesting is for something huge.
Like if they turned it down.
Like Will Smith turned down being Neo in The Matrix to do Wild Wild West, I believe.
See, that's interesting, but that's like an offer. It's not like the casting person being like, what about this person?
Yeah.
It's like,
one of the biggest ones along the lines of this that I did think was really interesting is we watched Skyfall together, right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember Kincaid, the guy who is like looking after the Bond estate and helps Bond set all those like Home Alone style traps towards the end. He's like an older gentleman. He's got a gray beard.
Yep.
Originally, the plan was for that guy to be played by Sean Connery.
That would have been awesome.
Which would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But Sean Connery was like, no, I'm retired. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go beat some women.
That's not... I know you're making a joke, but let's clarify is he came from a generation where he thought that was okay and acceptable to do that.
But it's not.
It's not.
And he's an idiot.
Yeah.
For thinking that it is.
Right.
But anyway, maybe it's for the best that he was not in that film.
Perhaps.
Well, so let's give the time of day to 8-Bit Christmas. So the reason why I liked it so much is because it felt fairly like
realistic.
Like it had heart, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't like we're just trying to make like a crappy, you know, direct to streaming thing that's going to capitalize on video games, even though we're not going to portray it as realistic. Like it felt like I was a kid lusting after a video game console and like having it be all that I could think about. And above all else, this movie had really good jokes. And the kids had enough acting chops to deliver those jokes. And some of the scenes where the kids were like freaking out and just like screaming in excitement, I couldn't help but laugh because it was funny.
Especially like the weird kid with the glasses. He just got
so
my goat.
Good.
He's like, do you want some erasers? They're really good.
It was really funny. Yeah. And I think it follows the same beats as A Christmas Story without having the same ending, which I think is really important. So obviously in A Christmas Story, he wants the Red Ryder BB gun and they're telling him, no, you'll shoot your eye out. And then eventually he gets it and he shoots his eye out, sort of. But the ending of 8-Bit Christmas, spoilers, go ahead and watch it if you haven't. He doesn't get the Nintendo. Instead, he gets a treehouse that his dad built. And then later he has to work to earn money for the Nintendo.
But he realizes that was the better gift because it provided him with memories with his friends and with his dad.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a way better spin on A Christmas Story and a way better sort of lesson of an ending saying like, you know, you might not get what you want.
Mm-hmm, but you might get something better that you didn't even realize was better.
Yeah. Because that happens in life more than getting what you want. It's like get something different and you have to put aside your feelings on not getting what you want and just enjoy what you did get and find that, you know, maybe it was for the best that you got that thing.
For sure. And it's like sometimes people, I'm guilty of this for sure, is like always thinking about the next thing and not being present enough. Mm-hmm. So it's like even if he did get that Nintendo, it would have been great, but like it just, you know, it wouldn't have been the same as like having all those shared experiences with his dad. Yeah,
and if he had gotten his Nintendo, then he probably wouldn't have spent as much time with his dad, but he got to spend a lot of outdoor time, and then the reveal of his dad being dead at the end, which I felt was maybe a little bit unnecessary, but I guess I can get behind it.
Well, it just showed that like he was able to like bond with his dad about something, and like he got to enjoy this time with him while he still had it.
Yeah. Let's give out some ratings here.
Okay.
So I'm going to give Happiest Season probably an 8 out of 10 or a 4 out of 5, depending on what your preferred rating system is. Because I'd say like 7. My brother makes fun of me for this rating system, but I say 7 out of 10 is like, it didn't have any major flaws. solid movie, but nothing exemplary. Whereas 8 out of 10 is like just a little bit above that line. I think if it didn't have those hijinks moments and maybe had been rewritten, just like one more pass at a rewrite to eliminate some of the goofier stuff, I probably still wouldn't make a 9. But it would be a stronger 8. A more confident 8.
I didn't mind all of the goofy stuff. Like, I like, some good, silly humor. But definitely the fight kind of made it less realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I think an 8 is fairly fair because I thought in terms of different Christmas movies I've seen, this is like fairly well written, all things considered. So, and I enjoyed all the cast. The actors were great. So I think 8 is good. Yeah.
I definitely think it deserved a theatrical release.
It definitely did.
Like, what was the Lindsay Lohan one that we watched? What was that called?
I don't... Something about...
Christmas with Lindsay. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
Christmas with Lindsay. If you had told me, like, oh, that was originally planned for a theatrical release, I'd be like,
no.
I don't think so. I don't think that would have been a good idea. But this, I would have taken it more seriously if it was released in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was a lot of heart and personal experience behind it, which I appreciated. The Family Stone, maybe a 7. Because I was definitely welling up with tears at certain parts of Happiest Season, and it was very emotionally palpable to the point where, like I mentioned, we took a break towards the end of the movie. I think I kind of needed that break because I just I felt
it's pretty stressful.
Pent up emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas The Family Stone had maybe like one emotional scene, like maybe the one where they reveal the gift and it's Diane Keaton pregnant. Yeah. That was like pretty powerful. It brought the whole family together and kind of settled some differences.
They were just like, I just felt like I wasn't on board with a lot of the characters. So then it was hard for me to like reason with them and like feel what they're feeling. Because I'm like, you guys are a mess.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't watch it again.
No, I don't think so.
I'll give it a generous 7.
Because it has like the poor writing with none of the lighthearted guilty pleasure fun that makes me return to Hallmark or like Netflix type movies, like The Night Before Christmas.
I want to rewatch that. That was funny.
Yeah, it was good. See, but like, it's light. It's nice. It's easily palatable.
I don't know if I would rewatch Happiest Season, but I would definitely recommend it to people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would rewatch it. But less of a thorough watch. It would maybe just be like on in the background while wrapping presents or something.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love The Family Stone. It was my idea to watch it, but because I saw that people were reviewing it on Letterboxd last year. So I was like, oh, people are watching this. Maybe like this should be something that we should watch at some point. But I didn't end up loving it. So I'm going to give it like a 6 out of 10, which is a pretty low score.
That is pretty low.
Yeah.
Do I want to change to a 6? I'll stay at a 7 and maybe I'll ruminate on it for a while. But 8-Bit Christmas, for me personally, I'm going to give it a 9. Only because it really spoke to me in those childlike feelings of like really wanting a video game system. And I felt like they portrayed video games like pretty realistically. There was once or twice where there was a game on screen and I was like, that's definitely not a real game.
Yeah, like Paperboy, it wasn't realistic because it's a one-player game.
Yeah, they're like, let's sit down and play Paperboy, but it's one player.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really funny when he's at the store and Rob the robot, I think it was like supposed to represent Rob, but it wasn't exactly Rob, was like, I have everything, pick a game and we'll play. And he's like, how about this game? He's like, oh, I don't have that one, pick a game. That was funny.
Yeah, the movie is good. And like, there's a part, I'm trying to think of what his name is. He's in Arrested Development. What's his name? David Cross?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I really wanted a llama for Christmas. Donkey. Yeah. And like the kid's like, did you get it? And he's like, no, it was a donkey.
He gets a donkey.
So I think has the nice lightheartedness with, a lot of charm to it. It's pretty happy. I think it's definitely a rewatchable favorite.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means. I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a lot going for it.
It's fun.
It's like, I would say it's well written. Like, one of the things that I appreciated was like, there's that annoying kid who lies about everything, which I feel like in most movies would just be a nuisance. But later in the movie, they actually put that to use, and they're like, you need somebody to lie? And they get him on the phone, and he tells like a BS story to those two moms.
Yeah.
That was a great way to fold...
Planned and payoff.
Yeah, planned and payoff, to fold that annoying character back into the mix and have him actually be there for a reason.
For sure.
Same with like the weird kid who eats erasers. Like, his role in the plot was to teach the main character to stand up to the bully and not really care.
Don't care what people think in general, because the main character has like girly boots. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of just like the weird kid is kind of like unabashedly himself. Mm-hmm. So it like teaches him to just like be sure of himself.
Yeah. Speaking of those boots, that was another good example of planned and payoff, is they say a couple of times that he has the same boots as another girl in his class. Mm-hmm. And then there's the payoff in the end where it turns out that he ended up getting married to that girl. Mm-hmm. I think planned and payoff for me is a good indicator that a writer is thinking critically about their script, because they're not just like writing, and then they're like, well, I guess we'll turn that in that draft for the day. They're like, okay, how can I make all these things connect and make this movie feel more cohesive?
For sure.
Yeah. So I really appreciated that.
Like, in the beginning when they introduced that one character, they're like, oh, he's allergic to SpaghettiOs. And you're like, okay, that's a random fact, whatever. And then later on, like, there's a reason why they mentioned that he's allergic to SpaghettiOs. Okay.
I guess I missed that, because I was like, why is he eating SpaghettiOs to throw up? Is he just eating too many? Because he's throwing up a lot.
Yeah, because he's allergic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you really like A Christmas Story, or maybe you grew up in the 80s, or if you just grew up playing video games a lot, I would give this movie a try, because this is now it's replaced Elf as the Christmas movie that I want to rewatch every year. I still think
Elf is great.
I still think Elf is one of the best, if not the best, Christmas movie ever made. Mm-hmm. Because it's a movie that's really about Christmas, but it's not like A Christmas Story where it's about like being a kid at Christmas and wanting presents. Like, Elf is a movie about, the story of Santa Claus and about elves and making toys and delivering them.
And it's about adults.
It's about Christmas spirit and all that. And it meshes so well. And shout out to the movies that made us on Netflix. If you love Elf, definitely go watch the movies that made us episode on Elf. Because it reveals that, Jon Favreau wanted to make a timeless Christmas classic. And in my opinion, he did. And I love Elf, and I love that movie, and I love the range of Will Ferrell going from crazy roles like Talladega Nights versus Elf. It just shows that he has a lot of range, and he's very talented. The problem is, I've watched it too many times.
That's the way it goes.
Because I watch it every single year. I know a lot of people watch like Home Alone every year.
Yeah, Home Alone, A Christmas Story.
Elf was my every year watch.
Yeah.
But I've just seen it too many times. And now 8-Bit Christmas is going to be the movie that I rewatch every year.
Well, we'll definitely revisit like all these Christmas classics. It's not that we're never going to see them again. They're just more on the back burner. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to explore new movies that can be new classics and new traditions.
Totally. That's definitely something that we've been doing the past like Christmas seasons and Halloween seasons, is trying to just like watch as much of these movies as possible that we haven't seen. Mm-hmm. We kind of went a bit crazy during Halloween and put out like 4 episodes in a month. I didn't want to do that for Christmas because I didn't want to flood everybody's podcast feeds with Christmas movies, because I know some people are not interested in that.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah, but
I mean, I love Christmas movies.
Me too.
But I mean, our international movie watch will resume after this, and we're going to be watching Italian movies and Japanese movies, so that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. My brother lent me a couple Japanese movies. He lent me Seven Samurai. I almost said Sammy Samurai.
Sammy Samurai.
That's the kid version.
Samurai Jack Sammy.
Yeah, it's a combination of Pajama Sam and Samurai Jack.
I like it.
Sammy Samurai. No, Seven Samurai and Harakiri, I think is the way to say it. Okay. I don't know if we'll watch both of those just because they're both about samurais. Plus, I don't want this marathon to just become like movies from the 60s or 50s. So I'd be more interested to watch like maybe Harakiri and then maybe like a Japanese movie from like the 90s or early 2000s or something.
Yeah.
It's taking a lot of effort for me to hold back watching just anime because we haven't watched anime in a while.
Yeah, we could watch one anime and then one samurai movie or something.
Sir, I would like to order one anime, please.
Yeah, let's watch one anime.
So we'll see. So that'll resume after Christmas. We'll watch some Japanese films and some Italian films, and then who knows what'll happen next. Maybe we'll do our Daniel Radcliffe marathon.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
That'll be fun. So we're losing our light, as tends to happen when we shoot these episodes with natural light. And it's Christmas Day, so go ahead and enjoy Christmas with your families. Stop listening to a podcast and go give somebody a hug. That sounds like a nice Christmas thing to do.
That's sweet.
And if there's nobody around to hug, then give yourself a little hug.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Have yourself a merry big Christmas.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Eat some cookies, have some presents, sit in front of a fake fire.
From
Sounds
Netflix,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And go watch 8-Bit Christmas.
Yep.
All right. See you later.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.